I'm with Peter Kujawa here at IT Nation Connect 2024 in Orlando. Peter, welcome. Good to see you again. How long have you been with ConnectWise?
I've been with ConnectWise Service Leadership for 3 years. Just rolled 3 years, 2 weeks ago actually. My first IT Nation Connect as an employee was 2 weeks after I'd started, and my job was to follow my predecessor, Paul Dippel, around the event. And so I spent 3 days following him to all the presentations he did, all the media interviews he did, nonstop, back to back, all day long for the week. And at the end of the week, I was questioning whether I'd made the right decision to take the job. But here we are 3 years later. It's been great. It's been just an absolutely awesome week.
And you're in the role of VP for Service Leadership, so you kept the brand.
We did,
Service Leadership. Okay.
Yes, that was a conscious decision. We, ConnectWise made a really smart decision. We kept the brand name because it was a known brand, but the other thing that we kept was we maintained data separation. So anybody who benchmarks with us on a quarterly basis puts very sensitive data into our system. Balance sheet data, income statement data, obviously valuation data. And all of that is kept in a completely separate system, completely separate database, and only a very limited number of service leadership employees are able to get at that data.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I've seen you a few times. Must have seen you right when you were hired, and you always had studies. So Tom, what's the latest? What's the latest data on your side?
Well, yeah, we collect our data every quarter. Most of our data, our ongoing benchmarking data, every quarter partners from all over the world put their data into our system, and we benchmark 10 different business models in the technology space, the two largest sets being MSPs and VARs. And so every quarter we're able to see how's revenue growth going, what's growing, what's not growing, what does gross margin look like in different business units, which business models are doing better, what is profitability trend, what trending looking like. And so this quarter, a few interesting highlights. The biggest highlight is that organic revenue growth for MSPs on managed services has slowed. So
okay, that's going to be one of my questions. Okay.
Yeah, historical, if you go prior to COVID, back years and years, the growth range was typically in the 10 to 14% range, plus or minus 2% to 12%. Well, starting in the second half of 2020, you saw this tremendous lift that peaked about in late 2022, early 2023 at about 25%.
Wow.
And so you see it on the chart, and it's really eye-popping and kind of scary. A lot of MSPs see this coming back to earth, and it looks pretty disturbing. What we're seeing now, the last 4-quarter trending is 10.8% last quarter, 2 quarters ago, 4-quarter trending, and 10.3% this quarter.
Still pretty good, though.
Really good.
Yeah.
And so the message to MSPs is really twofold. Number one is don't panic. We're back to historical norms.
Yeah.
And so blocking and tackling becomes important again, and all the things that you were doing before COVID, keep to run your business and grow. Make sure you're investing in adequately in sales and marketing. All of those things. The second is, while the revenue chart was really fun to look at, the reality of a lot of that organic growth was based on price increases due to tremendous inflation. So if I'm an MSP, my largest cost of goods sold input is my people, my labor. And wage inflation was running 6, 8, 10, 12% during that time in a lot of cases. And so what the MSPs have come to recognize is that the negative of higher wage inflation will whack your business faster than the benefit of price increases will lift it, right? Because if I do a price increase on a managed service contract, I'm doing that on an annual basis. So, but the team that's providing the labor to support that contract, I might need to do an increase today to keep somebody, and that will hit my income statement starting next week, right, or next month. So while revenue growth has slowed, profitability has actually improved. The last 3 quarters, average profitability has gone from 10 or 11% up to 13% plus. And so that's due to improvements in gross margin. We're seeing managed service gross margins running at a really high level for average. So don't panic. Run your business, invest in sales and marketing, continue to do price increases where you can, and life should be good.
Yeah, I always worry about sectors that raise way too much money way too quick. I'll give you an example, and I'm not sure it applies to us. I'll frame it up, but I play CNBC in the background in the day, right? My wife.
As do I.
Yeah, I'm boring, and it scares me. This isn't my first rodeo, so it scares me when you see these deals announced in AI. Today we raised 200 million. And another company raised 300. Well, I know what's coming. Not my first rodeo, and they tend to raise way too much money way too quick. Maybe get stupid, overhire. And then here come the layoffs in the valley. Now, I understand this is by analogy, that's different. Are you sensing that in the MSP, I guess I call it a niche, private equity's been pouring money, or do we have too much money in the MSP space and now they have to put that money to work, and that can include staff reductions and that kind of thing, or is that not one of our dynamics?
It's not yet. There's definitely more money in the channel than ever. Right now, that's all positive. And there's a tremendous positive from a standpoint of if I'm an MSP owner and I'm looking to sell my business. For a lot of MSP owners, there's still a tremendous concentration of sub $5-6 million companies in revenue size. So most of the time, this is a large part of their net worth. This is a big part of what they're going to need to retire. And in our industry today, there's more options than ever to sell. So if I've built a good business, I'm going to get a fair price, maybe a little more than a fair price, and I'm going to have options. And there's a lot of industries out there that can't say the same.
Yeah.
I might have built a business, I might have owned a business for 20 years and invested tremendous amount of blood, sweat, and tears into that business, and now I want to retire and I don't have a vehicle to do it because there's no money in it. So it doesn't mean that the owner is going to have to sell the private equity. They might sell to another privately held firm. They might choose to ESOP. We're collecting benchmarking data and we're seeing more MSPs going to an ESOP model. Or they might sell the private equity. And if they do, there's a wide range of flavors of private equity buyers, right? Some of them are going to do the semi-integrated and they're going to want me to stay on and run it for a while. Others are going to fully integrate and maybe I want to go sit on a beach or golf or whatever. And I have options. And so that's a great thing for the channel. It's brought tons of investment capital in. It's brought a lot of different perspectives on how to run a business in. But in our opinion, it's been all positive. We may get to a point where maybe some of the PE folks are not able to exit at the numbers that they're talking about. If that hasn't happened yet, there's been some pretty substantial exits in the past 6 months. If we get to that point, you may see multiples downstream start to come down a bit. But for now, it's been all good.
Yeah, maybe the final conversation between us, I do track the private equity activity in our space. That's one of my things. And what I'm seeing, it's interesting. And, my business background, this isn't a surprise. It might be for, Joe, the computer guy, a geek who became a business owner and now wants to sell. A little bit newer to this dynamic, but I guess I would offer, and you're welcome to affirm, that you need to talk to multiple private equity firms. A lot of them have little niches. I'm aware of one out of Tampa. Well, they just want to acquire MSPs in healthcare in the Southeast, right? So, my good friend up in Minneapolis, well, I could still be his good friend, but we, that's all. You know what I mean? We can't do business and
Sure.
and so on. So there's those flavors, and I guess that's my main point. Any thoughts on that? But you need to kind of shop around. They're all just. Oh, the other thing was they team, and you see that all the time on CNBC, right? Where these banks come together on a deal, right? And they should be competitors, but they team on an IPO or whatever. You know what I mean? But let's take the first one. Does your data pick up on that, or Tom Abrofo, who invested in ConnectWise, they're huge.
Huge.
They're in a totally different league. I don't know. Any thoughts?
We don't capture data on who the buyer is. It's not something that's important to us. What we look at every year is what's going on with multiples, and we're going to average those out. And we're going to look in our inputs for that we look at our size of EBITDA dollars of the MSP. We're looking at how profitable is the business as a percentage of revenue, and we're looking at what's their revenue mix. And so that's what we're using to come up with our opinion on multiples, and are they going up or going down. Who the buyer is, who's driving it, not as important. But to your larger question, if I'm selling my MSP today, and we sold our MSP that I was president of, we did 3 acquisitions. So I ran an MSP for 11 years, had pretty good experience in M&A during that time. If I'm a seller, I want to talk to as many qualified industry folks as I can, and I want to do it at least a year, ideally 2 to 3 years ahead of the date that I'm going to market, because I want to make changes in my business that are going to be important and are going to have a material impact on my desirability and my multiples when I go out. And that information and access to those industry folks is really readily available today. We do the IT Nation Grow events. You can come to Evolve on Community Day and get M&A input, and it's amazing. I participate in those events, but I do so humbly. You're getting an MBA in how to go to market if you go to one of those events, and you're getting it from some of the top experts in the industry. And these are, for most MSP sellers, it's a liquidity event. It's not. Of course. They're not selling it because they're about to die. They're going to do a liquidity event that they're going to be able to decide: do they want to buy another business? Do they want to do something different? Do they want to start a charitable foundation or do whatever? They're going to have a bunch of options of what to do. But for many of them, they've been running this business and building it for 15, 20 years.
They have.
And they're at an age where they're probably not going to start over and do it again, so they want to get it right. So you've put all this effort into building this thing, put some extra effort into getting input from people who know what they're talking about and are going to help you get ready while you have time to get ready. What you don't want to do that we see a lot is you get a phone call one day and you had a bad week and you're really frustrated with the business, and you get a call from somebody who says, "Hey Harry, how would you like it if we paid you X for your business?" And you say, "You know what, that sounds pretty good. Put that in writing and let's get together," right? Talk to a lot of people.
I've seen those deals.
If you're selling, the more buyers you can talk to, the more you're going to find, not only from a price perspective, but cultural alignment, making sure that you have a good fit for your role after closing. All of these things are really important to get aligned on. So the more people you talk to, I think the better the probability is of success.
I agree. Well, Peter, thanks for your time. We'll see you next year. Okay. We'll
look forward to it. Always, Harry.
Folks, down below you have a link to some of your latest research. I sure enjoy it. I'm glad you make, essentially you make it public. You put it out in the public domain. So I appreciate that. All right, well, have a good show, folks. Again, we're IT Nation Connect 2024 in Orlando. Wonderful time of year in November, arguably the last big show in our industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry. It's the Super Bowl of our industry. It's the biggest.
Yeah, I say the Rose Bowl, but I like the Super Bowl better.